I'm very happy to be talking to Paul Nevison, who's over in Australia. I'm not sure exactly where in Australia, Paul. Where are you at the moment?
In Queensland, just north of Brisbane.
Okay. So, and of course, we're talking to Paul. He knows this, but I'm letting everyone else know that we're talking to him because he won this year's YDA. Twice, in fact. So a gold for charity, I Will Dance, his I Will Dance campaign, and then silver in the Changing the World Frame by Frame category for the Fisherman. And so, look, Paul, before we get too deeply into that particular work, can you tell us a bit about your background, how you got into directing, why you wanted to be a director, and things like that?
It's been sort of went to film school like most people do, and ended up in all kinds of different departments. So I started as an editor, and then I did some camera work and sound, even been sort of through all of the sort of departments, and then it's probably maybe just over 3 years ago, 4 years ago maybe, that I kind of thought, oh, directing's what I'm going to do now, just kind of launched out, and that's kind of where I ended up. It's sort of, there's no sort of master plan. It's like, right, you can see it when you look backwards, but it's all just being like, well, what opportunity has come up, and try and do the best with that, which leads to the next thing, which leads to the next thing. So
was that always the goal, though? Even when you were working in sound and the different departments, was the goal always to sort of eventually move into directing, or was that sort of just something you decided last minute?
No, I often say it's like I ended up in directing because nobody stopped me. I just kind of felt like I got in through the back door a little bit. I just was always interested in storytelling, but I think for a lot of the time I always thought I'd help other people tell their stories.
Okay.
And then sort of as time developed, I realized that I kind of had a perspective on things and a voice, and just kind of. And because I was often too, with a lot of the projects I was doing, you had to wear many hats because it just wasn't the resources. So as those things started to get stripped off, then I could go, oh, well, I guess I'm a director now, because all I have is like a clipboard, and I'm not lugging gear around, and that. So I had to call myself something. So yeah.
But it's interesting you say that you sort of plan to help other people tell their stories, because that kind of brings us onto your work, and certainly the silver winning film Fisherman, because that is the story of another person, another family. So can you tell us a bit about that? I mean, it's a beautiful and poignant story, but how did you find those people, and why did you want to tell that particular story?
Well, it landed in my lap a little bit, because there's a one charity in particular that I've sort of done a lot of work for over the years, and it came through them, and they had a particular this place in Indonesia, this small little island, and they had something going there. They had one of their projects that they work on there, and so I just went over. They gave me like 13 different families. Just a brief blurb. It was like a paragraph and a couple of photos, and then I ended up choosing the family that we chose, because the guy was like this spare fisherman. I thought, oh, there's something there that could be kind of interesting. And it was, we went in with no story. Like, all I had was a paragraph and a couple of photos, and so it was like a real trying to just finding what the story was, letting the story emerge. And so we went a few different ways with it. We ended up sort of, I thought I'll tell it from the child's perspective, and then the child ended up not being particularly cooperative. Right. So we had to kind of pivot halfway through the shoot, going, oh, this is not going to work. So then we sort of pivoted towards, well, let's tell the parent's story. And the more we got to know them, Mixie and they were just really wonderful, beautiful, warm people who were just in a really tough situation. And the simplest thing, it's like the guy's engine kept breaking down, and so it had all these repercussions that he would end up going, to more dangerous parts of the sea. And it was kind of one of these stories where we would just turn up and try and find a location on the fly, and then think about, well, what can happen here, and try and piece it all together. So it wasn't like some grand master plan. It was a bit sort of like, we found it as we went day by day.
It came out brilliantly, and I mean, the film itself, you could take pretty much any frame from the whole of the film and kind of use it as a painting. It's, you know, that it's a beautiful looking, and you know the images are amazing. So is that an important aspect of it to you, to make it look as gorgeous as it does, as well as tell the story, or was that just the fact of where you were and what the landscapes were like?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of things. So, I mean, I am looking for like visuals that are stunning, because I think that helps draw you into a story. It's not, if it's just pretty pictures, then it can be a bit empty. But if it's that with a story, then it will help draw you in. So partly, you know, we're on an Indonesian island. There's palm trees, and you know, like, so you've partly got, you know, that working for you anyway. But then Bjorn Amundsen, who I sort of collaborate with a lot, who's the DP on it, like, he just has a really beautiful way of bringing those things to life even more. And sort of he shoots in this, it's very cinematic, but it's quite unobtrusive. And even when we're there working with because they're just real people, they're not actors or anything, like, he becomes quite invisible, and they just get about doing, you know, what they were normally doing. So but yeah, I think like the visuals, like they communicate for sure, like that, you know, there's that, you know, beyond words, you know, it's the feeling of something. And I think you can, and it's sometimes it's in there's one small part I really love in that film, where it was just after, it was in like a pause in an interview where Mixie, the dad, he just talks about like that he has to work harder, and there's just this pause, and it's just him sort of framed by the doorway, and it's just the look on his face, and it kind of just, as you know, as a dad myself, and like, just really connected with that moment to go, I know what this guy's feeling. He's got this family he's trying to provide for. Everything's working against him, and just those little things to help elevate those moments so that an audience can connect with it.
No, it was a beautiful,
what I'm thinking about.
Poignant sort of film. It's really, really, really good. Understandably, that's why it won. And similarly with the Goldwing spot for what's it called, I Will Dance, or it's a campaign. Again, it's a short film, I think, or sort of a pretty short film. You know, that too is kind of beautiful looking, and it's a story of, you know, well, a kind of documentary style story of a little boy. So is that the sort of stuff that you're drawn to, those sort of documentary projects? Is that sort of your favorite area to work in?
I mean, it's where I come from. Like, I've always sort of been in that sort of documentary, factual kind of world, and you end up getting hired for the thing that you do, you know. So there is sort of there is that side of things. But yeah, I'm always interested in true stories, and how they reveal something about you know, and reveal something about the audience as well. And I mean, it's not the only thing I want to do, but it's something that I do enjoy doing, and have done it for you know, many years, for the different ways. And you know, I'll continue to do it, because you know, you get to go to some amazing places and meet really incredible people who are, you know, wonderful.
Yeah. And of the two films, what was the most challenging sort of aspect across either of them? What did you find the most difficult part, or the most challenging part?
Well, all of those films are really difficult, because you're in far-flung places of the world where you have no production support. There's, you know, the power's iffy, and you're like in language barriers. I mean, the Fisherman, like, our gear was lost for 4 days, and so I think we were supposed to be there for 6 days, and we ended up having to shoot it all in 2 days, because our gear just didn't arrive, and we were waiting, and you know, it was just those kind of things, because it was island hopping. It was on 2 islands behind us, and eventually caught up. And so those things are always really difficult. I'm trying to think with I Will Dance. I mean, the other thing too is you're approaching people often with these kind of stories that people have gone through like a lot of trauma and really hardship, and so it's like, how do you sensitively navigate those spaces, because you know, you don't want to add to their troubles, you know. You're there to try and like, how can this be helpful and cathartic? And I think like in I Will Dance, like the grandmother Gladys, like for her, I think it was like for her being able to tell her story, like she was really eager to tell it, and you know, the hardship that we've gone through, and she was this amazing woman who'd like just done everything for this child who she'd taken in, and who had these medical problems. And I think she was a wonderful, lively spirit, and just, you know, wanted to just tell her story. And I think giving people that opportunity is always pretty cool.
Yeah, makes all the difference, I suppose, if the subjects of the film are sort of fully on board.
Yeah.
And you won at the YDA 2 years in a row, I think I'm right in saying. You won last year as well. So what does winning at the YDA mean for you or for directors in general, do you think? How important is it to sort of get that recognition?
Well, people get back to you, which is nice. People respond to your emails, which that was quite good. Yeah, I mean, the YDA in particular, I think it's like, to be recognized by your peers is really cool. And, and the jury's always like, amazing people from, all over the world. And I think that's really important too, that if you win, that it's resonating across cultures and through different parts of the world, and through people who do have different disciplines in filmmaking. So it's been really great. Like it gives you the vote of confidence, I guess, that you're heading in the right direction, which is always nice. Sometimes it's gonna be a bit of a lonely old process of how sitting there chipping away at things, and so that's kind of a good boost. And then I guess practically, it's nice when you can send an email and someone gets back to you. It's a notoriously hard business to get a break in. So it definitely helps.
And how about sort of over the last 5-6 months, whatever it's been, how have you coped with lockdown and, as a director in your career, and also, what have you got on the horizon coming up next, or what are you working on at the moment?
It's been, like everybody, a strange old year. I had all these plans to go to the YDA actually this year, but the virus had other ideas. So so it's been tricky. I mean, the last thing I shot was in January, and I'm now prepping for a commercial at the moment, shooting in about 2 weeks, which is good. But that's the first kind of like shooting thing that I've had other ones that have get to prep and then they all got cancelled because lockdowns happened, or things changed. So that's just it's been a bit challenging. But as I was saying to someone, I mean, it's small compared to you could be in a hospital fighting just to breathe. So you put it all into perspective. It's like it's a bump in the road so far. So
have you got any more of the films that so the documentary type films that you've made already and one for planned, or are you doing something different?
So I'm like all those films that I do in the developing world, they've kind of been put on hold for indefinitely while there's no travel and things. But I have another a feature documentary that I've been working on for the last 3 years, and we've just literally last week locked the story lock on that, so that's all good. And now we're moving into score and sound design and all that. So that's a story completely different. It's about a guy fighting against the Mexican cartels in Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona. So completely different. 180 for those other films. But I mean, lockdown, and for one thing, has helped me focus on that, and I'm sort of working remotely with an editor on that. So it's been good to have that sort of time to focus on that and finally get it out the door. It's one of those projects that you feel like it's never going to end.
It sounds very much like at some point in the future when that comes out, we'll have to have a separate conversation about that, because that sounds incredibly interesting, and I'm sure there's quite a few interesting stories behind the making of that as well. Look, Paul, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Congratulations again on really well-deserved wins at the YDA. The work's amazing. I urge anyone watching this to check out the work that should be below or above this interview somewhere on the page. And good luck with the rest of lockdown with the work you've got coming up. And it's great to talk to you.
Thanks, Danny. Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks,
All the
mate.
best.